So in this video, we're going to talk about damage assessments, and more importantly, what is your plan? What are you going to do when disaster strikes? So on March 17th at 7:09 a.m., Salt Lake City had an earthquake, right when people were going to work, a 5.7 magnitude earthquake. So let's look at maybe what that would look like if you were on duty when that earthquake hit. So imagine you're sitting at your desk working hard when all of a sudden everything starts to shake. At first you panic, but then you remember. Get under your desk and drop cover and hold on. Now you're supposed to stay under your desk till a minute after the shaking stops. But then, what do you do next? Well, first of all, don't panic. It's going to be okay. We have a plan and we'll follow it. Move along. Nothing to see here. Move along. Nothing to see. Okay, so one of the first things you're going to need to do is make sure the crew's okay. You want to make sure all your personnel are safe after anything like this happens. So let's go upstairs and make sure everybody's okay. Yep, looks like they're doing just fine. Now that we know all our personnel are safe, we're going to begin to assess the building. We'll do a complete 360 walk around. And as we do that, we're looking for any cracks in the structure, any broken glass, uneven concrete. We're also going to take some extra time to see if any water's leaking from the building and to check all gas meters. This is a very important part of the process because we need to determine if all our facilities are in good shape. That's going to be one of the key infrastructure components of a damage assessment. Now that we know our personnel are safe and the building's in good shape, we're going to check on all our apparatus. We want to make sure everything's ready to respond. So the next thing we're going to have to do is our damage assessment. But first, we're going to open up all the bay doors. And we're going to pull all the apparatus out onto the front pad. The problem is during an earthquake, you might have the bay floor and the front pad shift so that you can't pull apparatus out. Once we know everything is able to respond, we're ready to start our damage assessment. So the question is, why is this damage assessment so important? You see, within the first couple hours of the incident, the Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, is going to make decisions on where to send the resources. And if they don't know what's going on in your city's not going to get the resources. So one of the most difficult tasks is probably going to be even trying to find the damage assessment book. But let's hop up in the cab here and see how well we do. Oh, so we get inside here. There's going to be all sorts of materials we're going to keep, right? From tack sheets to map books. Oh, we got all sorts of books here, different plans, manuals. Here's what I'm looking for, the damage assessment book. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at one of our damage assessment books. You can see these get pretty dirty because they're in all our apparatus. We also load them on our mobile data terminals as well. Inside, you can see we have a policy about how to do damage assessments, and we also have these maps. So you can see we got District 81, 82, and 83. These coincides with the different stations that we have. So for District 81, you can see we have all the target hazards listed here. And target hazards are ones that we've identified in the city based on infrastructure, population, or many environmental concerns. And it's really simple. When a disaster happens, the engine will follow a pre-designated route and drive through and see all the different target hazards on their route. And they will report back about those target hazards to the Emergency Operations Center. Now, an important consideration is how are you going to communicate all the information from your damage assessments? Now, your normal radio system could be overrun with too much radio traffic. So it's important to start thinking about some other methods. Now, your cell phone might work, and even text messages might work better. But another thing to consider is getting a ham radio. These have proven the most effective during emergencies. Now, an important thing to think about is, as you're driving, don't report each individual target hazard over the radio to the EOC. Instead, wait until you pass several target hazards, combine that information into one batch, and then send that information to the EOC. That'll keep you off the radio. So you might be wondering now, when we send all that information to the Emergency Operations Center, what do they do with it? Well, I think the next step would be, let's go to the Emergency Operations Center or the EOC, and let's see what it looks like what they do with the information. Come on, let's go. Okay, well that wasn't such of a long trip to the EOC, but I bet you're glad you're here. I can tell, you're excited. Well, let's start off and we'll look over here, and you can see we have a big board. Now this lists all the different target hazards in the city. And as the radio traffic's coming in, the battalion chief's going to write down all the different information about those hazards. Then, as time allows, we will plot that all up on this map of our city. That way we can really tell if certain areas of our city are being hit harder than others. Now, hopefully within the first 2 hours, you're going to have that information and you can figure out if you need more resources and call the county for help. And if the county doesn't have the help, they will look to the state. And then from there, it just gets higher and higher. But you can see the importance is, if you don't have what's going on in your city within the first couple hours, another city that's going to is going to get the resources. So one interesting question is, while the crews are doing the windshield surveys, what do they do if they see an accident? Do they stop and help out, or do they keep going and finish the assessment? What if it's a fire? What if there's people lying injured on the street? That's an interesting question, but let's not answer that today. Let's save that for one of the discussion posts that we'll talk about later this week. But think about, what would you do? So let's talk about a few takeaway points. Remember, before starting a damage assessment, check on personnel, the station, and the apparatus. And when looking at target hazards for your city or area, you look at population, infrastructure, and environmental hazards. Well, I better get back to work, but I'm really curious to hear about what other departments are using right now for damage assessments, what things you found has worked well, and what things did not work so well. So let's talk about that more this week. Thanks for watching.